Got a little bit of warp in that vise part. And I'd rather have this end straight and square and let that end float a bit. Well, as close as I'm going to get it. I'm going to use this square to help me hold the drill straight up and down. By putting the drill bit into that part of it, it allows me to hold it this way and that way. So I should have a much better shot at drilling this pilot hole. Now the pilot hole is going to line up the top and the bottom of the through holes. So that when I drill my counter bore holes and drill my through hole, they'll all be straight and square, and I'll be able to line up with the leg, with the hole in the leg. Because I'm using a twist drill, the drill tends to fill up with the wood shavings, and as they come up they get packed in there and actually lock in and make kind of a drag. It can even stop the drill bit from turning and make it spin in the jaw. Now if I go all the way through this like I intend, and I'm straight up and down, I should be into the leg, and that should line up everything straight shot. Make sure I got enough length to get in there. This is a Miller Spalls egg beater drill. Very, very nice. Has a little roller that keeps the gear in line with the pinion gear, and these are bevel gears so that the rotation of this one spins that one that way, so you get to change angle on the thing. Works very nicely. And here comes the big boy. This is the one that's going to do the counter bore. This will allow me to set the nut below the surface of the vise jaw. So that you won't bang your shin on it. It'll look a little neater too. When you sharpen up one of these barn drills, it's just amazing how well it works. And that little pilot hole reduces the load on the pilot thread on the barn auger so that it does a fine job of drilling. Clean up the bottom of that hole, I think I got it. Yep. That'll make the top of that nut flush with the pocket. This handle's kind of cool too. It's adjustable. A lot of the old barn augers, when you find them, they have a handle that's been turned out of a piece of wood or just chiseled out of, or whittled out of a piece of wood, and there'll be a square hole either burned through it or chiseled into it or just having the drill bit jammed into it, then a nut on the top to hold the handle solid. They work, but this allows me to use one handle, which by the way is very comfortable, with a bunch of different auger bits. So I can take the handle off, put them together in the toolbox. They take up very little space. T-handle has a couple of advantages. It gives you twice the leverage. And also lets you put the load evenly on the drill bit so that it's easier to hold it centered. Just a touch more. Perfect. You can clamp up a standard auger bit into the handle and use that. So your whole tool kit could involve, oops, got to tighten up a bit more. Your whole tool kit could involve just one handle and a bunch of drills. But I prefer using a brace. The brace is designed to grab a hold of the square tang in the jaw and lock it into place. Holds it nice and square. The other thing that the brace has that a T-handle doesn't is a ratchet. Now, this being an open area, I don't need to have that ratcheting feature, so I'm just going to lock it down. Now, quite often, I see people using a brace and bearing down on the handle, the palm button up here, as hard as they possibly can. If you've got a sharp drill and a good pilot thread, you shouldn't have to do that. You should just walk through the beam all on its own, the load thread drawing it down through just like that did. Hardly any work at all. Auger bits are all about having that lead edge sharp at the correct angle, timed out so that it runs right into the thread on the pilot screw. And these little nickers, those have to be very sharp and they have to extend past that edge. That lets this thing plow through and create a circular cut, so all that this has to do is just pop that chip out. Now the pilot thread is putting a radial load on the chip that this thing's trying to cut, so it tends to just pop right loose. Then it follows on up the auger and out of the hole. Good sharp bit, works like a dream. Should work. Have to take some wrenches and tighten that up. This drill bit is a number 11. Auger bits are marked in 1/16 of an inch, so an 11 drill bit is 11/16. That's a 1/16 of an inch above a 5/8, and the threaded rod that I'm using is 5/8. That'll give me a little clearance to work with on there. I don't think a 1/16 of an inch of shake in a hole is going to make a big difference for me. I'm using this square as a reference, just so I can hold my auger bit straight up and down. Once I get down in about an inch or so, the auger itself starts to guide itself. Makes it want to follow the hole straight through. You can see that auger bit is cutting all on its own. Doesn't need any pressure at all. And with this nice big brace drilling through this soft pine, it's no work. It's just turning the handle. Now, if I was to try this with a twist drill, it would be trying to pop into that hole next to it. But with the pilot makes it walk straight down through the beam. And if I'm lucky, this should just drill straight down through and make a nice clean hole. I'm into that pine 2x4. I got a little off center on my way down through. I tilted the drill bit off to the side as I went down into the hole. I'm going to have to adjust that hole on the other end to make sure that the center line of the hole is even with the center line of this hole, this oval. Shouldn't make a big problem. This end of the oval hole will be able to hold the pin, the 5/8 threaded rod, and keep it from shucking back and forth. It'll still be able to move up and down without any problem, and it'll actually let it move side to side if it needs to inside that hole, but that thread on the main screw up there won't let it wobble around a lot. So this really shouldn't be a problem. This is a Buck Brothers chisel. My dad gave it to me. I don't know where he got it from, but he'd been using it to chop holes in 2x4s, and this end was pretty well beat up. Mushroomed over, had a wood plug jammed down in it, but the outside edge was curled over really badly. This is the first chisel that I ever repaired. I cut off the mushrooming, straightened up the socket, got the plug out of it, got it cleaned up, sharpened the blade, made a new handle for it out of a piece of maple. Really works nice. It's a style called a firmer chisel because the edges are square. Most newer chisels have the edges beveled. I don't know what the reason for that is. It's not like it makes it lighter by much or saves a lot of steel in the building, because they make it to size and then grind off that extra. It does allow you to get into a corner a little better. So perhaps that's the reason behind it. Caught a solid corner there. It doesn't want to move. So rather than beat up my chisel, I'll flip this thing over and take a look. I might be into something solid down there in the hole. Who knows? Sometimes it's just a knot. Knots can be a major pain in the butt. Looks like I just came into the other piece of wood, and that's proving a little more resistant because the grain is running the opposite direction. This way I'm actually splitting away the wood. Down inside the hole where I hit that 2x4, I'm hitting into end grain. Trying to chop off the end grain, which is a little more difficult. And what I'm really looking for is clearance for that 5/8 threaded rod to make it all the way down through. That's what the problem was. Catch and hold it too much wood with it. chisel and making it, trying to cut a big chunk out. Ah, there's a knot down there too. So I got a couple of strikes against me, but it decided it was going to go along with the program. Speak softly, but carry a sharp chisel. All the way through. Now I'm going to try a fit up. See how that jaw works. Need to tighten this nut up. And I'm thinking a socket is the perfect thing. Now if I drilled that hole the right size, should be able to reach right in there with that socket and tighten it right up. There we go. Solid. Put the nut on. Most of the time, that's going to be operating in an area about there. Okay, the flat washer's there to let it bridge across the oval hole. Lined up good with the hole here for the threaded nut on the other side. Now I just have to crank this down through and get the collar tightened up. A little bit OCD. I like to have the heads on the screws lined up, clocked.